Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So what we're going to be talking about today is some interesting perspectives on quote activities going on with reparations. All right. We got an article from CNN. Then we have a little printout from a government website. And then we're going to bring it back to the Buffalo mass shooting. All right. Because, in my opinion, there's some things that people need to see. There's some issues that people, I think, need to have pointed out. All right. So, my question is, if you guys read the title, I want to know what you think makes the most sense: economic extraction or negotiation. And I want you guys to let me know what your opinion is and why your opinion is what it is. The reason why I'm asking is because me personally, I'm a firm believer in economic extraction. Me personally, I believe that the United States government is illogical. I believe that the United States government are terrorists. And I believe that the United States government is impossible to negotiate. The only language that the United States understands is force, fear, and violence. You know what I'm saying? I don't do call-in shows, real, but what's up with it, bro? So now, here's the article from CNN. The fight for reparations has stalled in Congress. All right, so let's just attack that first sentence. Was anybody aware that reparations was in Congress? Now, I guarantee you what they're talking about is HR 40, the fight for a study, not a fight for actual cash payment slavery reparations. So then in the next sentence, they just move right along. Reparations is stalled in Congress. So then they go on to say, here's what they look like in state and local governments. All right. So there's a couple different states and a couple different local governments that are coming up with these programs that they call reparations that have nothing to do with slavery. You know what I'm saying? They're basically lift every voice programs, things that don't address cash payments, things that aren't based on calculations about reparations. So it's just interesting to see how the mainstream media does this. All right. So now here it says Lewis Weathers had a stable job and was married when he decided to buy a home in the Chicago suburb of Evanston in 1959. But high interest rates and white real estate agents who seemed adamant about keeping him and other black residents out of certain neighborhoods nearly discouraged him. All right. So now I got to ask everybody the question: why would you move somewhere where people have an issue with you being alive? How is that a good choice? Shouts out to my man James Sumler. What up with it? I just don't know why so many people think that I don't understand what they're thinking when they do that. More than 6 decades later, the 87-year-old received a payment to make up for the discriminatory housing practices that he and other black residents experienced between 1919 and 1969. He received a payout. So I'm curious as to how much that payout was. Shouts out to my man Jay Bird. What up with it? I'm curious as to how much that payout was. You know what I'm saying? After 3 years in the making, Evanston gave Weathers and 15 other Black residents $25,000 each in May to put towards a down payment on a home, mortgages, or home repairs. Now, what do you guys think about this $25,000 figure? For one, I don't think that $25,000 figure accounts for the opportunity cost of the dollar amount lost if those Black people had been allowed to invest in real estate at the time when they first tried to invest in it. So, in my opinion, at the minimum, the opportunity cost of not being allowed to buy a house is what the minimum payment should be. Also adjusted for inflation. So now I also find it interesting. Shouts out to my man Crypto Key. What up with it, bro? I also find it interesting that they decided to pay this out. For whatever reason, you didn't hear how did this affect anybody that's alive today, and all of the nonsense that we always hear. So what's the difference between paying this and paying actual reparations? Because the thing is that, in my opinion, what we need to do is itemize reparations claims. I don't understand why there's a major push only for slavery reparations. We need to itemize every single event that ever took place, every instance of anti-Black racism that financially negatively impacted Black people, adjust it for inflation, and that should be the target amount. My man Crypto Key says Everston in general is a whole ass scam. Yeah, it sounds like right off the rip, it sounds like it. And notice how CNN is trying to frame this as reparations. Now, clearly, this apparently is for events that took place between 1919 and 1969. So, in my opinion, that's one of the reasons why we need to itemize reparations claims. I feel that we need to itemize reparations claims for the same reason why people think that the whole, lineage-based thing is important. I think that if people only shoot for slavery reparations, we're selling ourselves short. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Slavery is just the start. Facts. And Brill, nobody counted land out. And nobody said what kind of tender the payment would be either. We're talking about general principle of payment. The way that payment would be paid hasn't even been discussed yet. The only payment that has been discussed is the $25,000 that they gave this person here. In my opinion, it's not real wise to just say we like we're in France. It's also not wise to make preemptive statements. What is the most wise thing is to use critical thinking. And to maintain poise. And to be analytical. And also to stay on task. I don't go on Facebook very much anymore. I just share my YouTube videos to Facebook. I don't go on Twitter. I don't go on IG. I don't really go on any social media. I just share, and that's really about it. Eugenics, Val, I think also. There's a lot. And in my opinion, that's why it needs to be itemized with each item having a particular priority. Probably slavery being the biggest, and then everything else going down from there. Now, my question is, why do people feel that this is something that can be negotiated? What evidence has the United States shown that they're an entity that can be negotiated with? And also, what is our leverage in negotiation? That's my question for you guys. America is like the Joker. Facts, Torian. Big facts. They improved the medical field using black bodies. Yeah. Henrietta Lacks being one of them. So, again, pay very close attention to this article. After 3 years in the making, Evanston gave Weathers and 15 other black residents $25,000 each in May to put towards a down payment on a home, mortgages, or home repair. So, what are initial problems that you see with this? First of all, they only gave 15 black people $25,000, which is nothing. Second of all, they gave them $25,000 with parameters. The only thing that you can do is put it on a down payment towards a home. You can put it towards a mortgage, or you can put it towards home repairs. Do you all feel that more than 15 black people were affected by these things? My question is, why do people accept this? Also, my other question is, why the press to negotiate? I want to know if people think that it's possible to negotiate with these people, and also what our leverage is in negotiation. And third of all, in my opinion, if we're negotiating a wrong that was committed against us, that's already on the wrong end of the deal. When somebody does a wrong to you, they're the one that's supposed to be the ones with the disadvantage, and you set the terms. Why is there a negotiation? Yeah, I agree with Crypto Key. No, I don't think so. I don't believe so. I don't believe that there's any kind of way that there can be peaceful communication. The victims in Tulsa still haven't received their reparations. Facts, they're in a courtroom in their wheelchairs, and they're trying to wait out those trials until those people pass away. They're all over 100 years old down in Tulsa. So my question is, if we don't feel that these people are able to be negotiated with effectively, who is it that we're going to negotiate with? And I was gonna say that, Val, but I held off. But I'm glad you said it. The money is gonna go right back to PC people. You should be able to do what you want with your reparations money. When it comes to reparations, everything's a goddamn study. That's a fact, Keith. What up with it, bro? Carla says, yes, more people were affected. If they accept that, everyone will be expected to accept that or less for their claims. I agree. Now, my question is, what is this $25,000 for? On a balance sheet, when there's an amount of money that's given, a line item, it's attached to a memo. So what would the memo be for this $25,000 across these 15 people? Because that surely cannot be any kind of reparation. So what is that? You see what I'm saying? You guys see where I'm going with this? Shouts out to my man Paris. What up with it? They can use that as precedent. Facts. They can try to, at least. What would the memo on this line item say? 15 black people paid $25,000. What would the line item say? If this is on a if this is on a budget, on a city budget or on a state budget, expenditure $25,000. What is the line item? What is the memo? What is it going to say? $25,000 to 15 black people. And what is the memo going to say? What is this for? What is this covering? What is this buying? Now, let me ask you guys a question. You guys have seen the national debt report, right? You guys have seen the American debt clock. Do you happen to see a line on it for reparations? Because, in my opinion, it would make sense if reparations were actually acknowledged by the United States, that reparations would be calculated into the national debt. It would be part of the deficit. Is it on there? The debt owed of reparations should negatively affect the United States GDP because it is a debt and it'll remain a debt until it's paid off with a credit because that's how the balance sheet works, right? So, what does the national ledger look like? You guys should look at it sometime. So now here it says, like Weathers, generations of Black Americans have faced disparities in housing, transportation, business, and other areas. What does that have to do with slavery reparations? Now, what I want you guys to pay attention to is, do you notice what's going on with this article right away? Right away, this article talks about reparations. Slavery has yet to been mentioned, and the time frame starts out in 1919. What does that tell you? So now again, I want to ask the question, is negotiation feasible? Is negotiation plausible? Is negotiation likely? So my question then, shouts out to my man Cameron. Cameron says no. If you guys agree with me, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. If you disagree, give me a thumbs down. Pear says no. So in my opinion, we should have contingency plans, right? You guys know I'm big on contingency plans because there are some people that have faith. I'm not big on faith, but there's some people that have faith and they think that there's a chance that there's going to be some magic words that people can say. And all of a sudden, the 400-year legacy of dishonesty is going to change into a legacy of integrity. And somehow people will say, we need to make this right. I'm going to tell you guys something. Those people that people think we're going to sit at the table and talk to, the only thing they see as making something right is making somebody look like Jalen Walker. Or I'm sorry, Jalen Walker. That's what they see as making things right. I don't see that as right. So that means that, you know, you think they're going to do anything about a debt? You know how psychotic these people are? These people are so psychotic, they think that we owe them a debt. Now, let's just assume that there are some Adosos who may have had a change of heart. Do you think that they're the majority or do you think that they're a minority? Let's just say, there's somebody that's just cool in Congress and they say, you know what? This is wrong. The United States is incorrect. The United States has unjustly built itself upon the blood of others, and we need to make things right. Now, do you think that person is a minority or do you think that person is a majority? Regardless if there are Adosos that feel that way, I guarantee you they're a very small minority. So it doesn't matter anyway. The majority ain't having it. The population at large ain't having it. Now what? I agree. Everybody that's saying minority, I agree. So how do we go about doing this now? You see what they do in the media. They're not touching slavery, right? But in the debate, they'll tell you that nobody owned a slave that's alive today. But for some reason, in the printed media, they're not touching that. When they bring up reparations, despite the fact that everybody knows that reparations is about slavery reparations, they're taking it and changing it to real estate reparations, which, hey, as far as I'm concerned, give us the money, but just understand that this has nothing to do with slavery reparations. You owe us this too. You owe us everything. But this doesn't have anything to do with slavery reparations. Like I said, if we itemize everything, real estate, redlining, eminent domain, unlawful seizures would all be on there anyway. So again, it's not like this isn't owed. It is. What they're trying to do is substitute. There is no substitution. There's only cumulative. So now here it says, and as descendants of enslaved people, many say they have not been compensated for their labor and lingering effects of systemic racism. Slavery reparations should not be coupled with repair for systemic racism, in my opinion. Systemic racism and all of its tentacles are all separate reparations claims, if you ask me. This is what happens when you create a mess for yourself. I don't give a shit how complicated it is. If you can build a rocket ship and get your ass to Mars where you don't belong, you can definitely do the calculations for this. So now here it says recent federal reparation efforts have stalled in Congress. Now notice they don't talk about why they stalled in Congress. You guys think that stall is a bipartisan effort? Other things might have took precedence, you know, like getting Joe Biden's approval rating up. You know, shit like that. Recent federal reparations efforts have stalled. What do federal reparations efforts look like? The only federal efforts I've seen are to prosecute black men with the RICO statute, and that ain't reparations. That's the only effort with anything directed at black people that I've seen from the federal government. RICO statute prosecutions. What recent federal reparations efforts? And who's been doing them? So now here it says, but cities like Evanston are working to atone the harms caused by slavery and institutional racism and address the racial wealth gap. Well, doesn't that sound nice? It's almost like a bundle package. You can get a couple pay-per-view channels, a shitty ass phone, and a DVR. How nice. Now I'm curious as to how Evanston calls itself working to atone for harms caused by slavery and institutional racism. Kind of sounds like slavery to me. If I say, here, boy, I'm giving you $5, you can go spend it at my store. And if I catch you spending it anywhere else, your goods ain't worth anything and I'm going to charge you for fraud. Sounds like they got a $25,000 WIC coupon. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm going to give you guys $100 each. You happy about it? Now, the stipulations on that $100 are you have to spend it on Super Chat, a membership, or my Patreon. What do you guys think about that? So now here it says last week, Detroit City Council unanimously approved how it would structure the city's first reparations task force. Did you guys know that Detroit had a reparations task force? If you guys were aware of what was going on in Detroit, give me a thumbs up. If you guys are not aware of what was going on in Detroit, give me a thumbs down. I didn't know that Detroit had a reparations task force. Learn something new every day. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, we got 13 live viewers. Shouts out to all the live viewers. And we got 12 likes. If everybody bangs on that like button, we'll have 25. So please make sure you guys smash that like button. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, the Amherst Town Council approved the creation of a fund to allocate a total of $2 million in reparations over the course of about a decade. $2 million in reparations. That's interesting. $2 million in reparations. What kind of reparations? When you go to a court, small claims court, you know what I'm saying, court of common pleas, and you're awarded damages, you usually agree to the damages, right? You never really get them dictated by you unless it's by the judge. $2 million in reparations for what? Now, I know some Ivy League schools that owe some people some money. I know Harvard owes some money. But $2 million for what? That's the question. So now here it says the push for reparations has gained momentum on the heels of the national uprising in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing, which rekindled the Black Lives Matter movement. That's interesting. That's what caused the reparations movement to gain momentum. I thought the reparations movement has always had a good, consistent amount of momentum. I think it's always had a good amount of momentum to the people that care about it. So now here it says Camilla Moore of the California Reparations Task Force said she sees reparations as fulfilling the promises made to her ancestors in mid-19th century following the abolition of slavery. Now, what were those promises? What promises were made to us? And in my opinion, I don't know how I feel about that. If somebody says we're going to make a promise, that's different than a debt owed. Unless we're talking about a promissory note. Promissory note that was defaulted on. You know why? We'll always go through bullshit as long as we take that approach. We will always go through bullshit if we take that approach. The approach that we take now, I don't understand how people aren't disgusted by the approach that we take now. In my opinion, it's embarrassing. The approach that we take now, is that how we got here? Did somebody ask nicely, hey, come on this cruise across the Atlantic with us? Give you some cocktails. We'll have a chat. We'll talk nicely, sir and ma'am, all that good stuff. It'll be formal. Mm-mm. That's not how that happened. So my thing is if we didn't get here like that, then why is there expectation for us to leave here like that? To me, The thought of negotiating with the Adoso government is nauseating. And me personally, I have no desire to do it. The same way that the United States interfered with evolution, the way that the United States interfered with progression, the way that the United States created issues that have caused continued and ongoing problems with development, in my opinion, that's the fashion that what we're owed should be removed from the United States. And then even after we remove it, still demand them to pay what they owe us. I don't understand why more people don't have that mind frame. Why don't more people have that mind frame? If these other groups of people want to get breadcrumbs dropped on them, if they've sunk to that low level of humanity to allow another group of humans to put leashes on their necks and to put bowls out for them to eat from, if other groups of people have sunk to that low level of cowardice and they want to be human vermin, let them do it and let them enjoy it. In my opinion, it's not the way to go. We have been in that position for far too long. Shouts out to Mike. What up with it, bro? My question is it natural to have a desire to ask for the person that has harmed you or the people that has harmed you or the entity, the government that has harmed you to politely do business with you? In my opinion, that's the ultimate surrender. I just wish that more people saw it that way. I don't understand how people don't. If there's a negotiation, who's ultimately going to set the price? Who has the money? Who has the land? Who has everything? What is our leverage? And why do we even need leverage? You negotiate when you're dealing with ethical people that have integrity. Are we dealing with ethical people that have integrity? There are no negotiations without power. Right. So again, I got to ask the question, what are we doing? Where do we think we're going to get anything? See, first, what you got to do is you have to weaken something, or you got to get some leverage. And to me, those are two moves that can happen in one move. It's just a matter of people doing it. And to me, people may not see it today. They may not see it tomorrow. They may not see it in 5 years. But people are going to see it eventually. That what I'm talking about is the only way we'll ever get anything. I'm just a couple years ahead of people, maybe a couple decades, maybe a couple centuries. But y'all will see. Just wait. Year after year. Just wait. Hashtag no tangibles, no vote. What are we doing during no vote? I'll tell you one thing that we'll be doing during no vote. We'll be complaining about how anti-black conservatives are and the kind of legislation that they're passing. The same way we're complaining about the Democrats. There's a higher likelihood of us getting what we need if we take it than there is of us waiting and having some kind of negotiation with the resource gatekeepers. You want to know how I know that? For one, it's common sense. For two, that's how the United States was formed. In the situation with the United States, Britain was the gatekeeper. They left, still were attached to Britain, had to pay them taxes. And they said, we're independent. Why are we paying this nation taxes? And then they fought. And Britain left them alone. So just in the very nature of this country, the formation of this country is about a confrontation like that. They didn't negotiate. And those are the same people that we're dealing with. They didn't negotiate with other white people. So my question is, what's the plan? Where's the weak spot that you attack in order to gain some power and some leverage? You know what a weak spot looks like? Just look at us. We're covered in them. Weak spot number one, no property ownership. So guess what? People come over here, and in areas where there's a lot of us, the property value is low because we don't set our own prices. And the reason why we don't set our own prices is because we don't own shit. They come and start a business, a revenue generating business right in the middle of where we live at, which every business that somebody else gets blocks out an opportunity for us to have a business. So there's weak spot number one. Weak spot number 2, no common objective. It's very easy to get people to start fighting. It's pathetic, really. One person thinks that you should say tomatoes. The other person thinks that you should say tomatoes. A shootout happens. While everybody's busy shooting each other people are collecting the resources and making money off of them. There's too many to name. We'd be here forever. Now, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing at all. No representation is another one. You got nonsense like this going on. Now, this article came out, and let's just say a few select people read it. Have any counter articles come out? How's that work? Now, my thing is, when people are building something, in most cases, they design a blueprint. Would you guys agree that in most cases, when people build something, they come with a blueprint? My question is, what is the blueprint? What's it look like? Is there a flow chart at least? Is there evidence of that? Most times when we've gotten, quote, our own, which we've never gotten our own, really, most times it's vandalized by people from the population at large. Second of all, if people took localities and built a strong political base within that locality, local and state governments supersede the federal government. We just learned about that with Roe v. Wade. So business and politics go hand in hand. You see, the problem is that people don't understand how to use them hand in hand. What would it matter if they made legislation? If the federal government made legislation and we controlled an entire state, it wouldn't matter. Unless they decided to roll through there with army tanks, which isn't out of the realms of possibility. But then again, that's why you set up contingency plans. Now, let me tell you something. How many people sell crack I'm pretty sure they got legislation against that, but people do it anyway. How many people steal cars? I'm pretty sure they got legislation against that. The only solution is to dominate the entire economy. And it can be done because our economy is weak. Those people in Kentucky lost. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that might have been Tennessee. And you know why? That's still their responsibility. That's a mainly black area, and the comptroller is a voted official, an elected official. And another thing is white people building Ford there is not black empowerment. That's some jobs, some floor sweepers, some toilet bowl scrubbers, some line workers. That's that manna shit. Some shit will fall out the sky. Good white people decided to build a Ford plant. So what? How come we didn't build the Ford plant? How many black people you think was gonna have good jobs at that Ford plant anyway? They're gonna get some black engineers. They're gonna bring in some black chemists, some black electricians. How many black people you think was gonna benefit from that to where they can quote empower themselves? Those people should have known that the comptroller was an elected official. And you know what else? That city has a long-standing history of corruption with comptrollers, and they turned their heads to it for a very long time. The black staff, the black mayor, all of those people spent years trying to get the books clean in that city because the last white comptroller that they had completely destroyed it and ran the budget out. And again, let me ask you guys this. If you go around a bunch of white people and you say, I'm going to come up with a car manufacturer that's going to have better quality than Toyota and it's going to be cheap, and I'm going to take over the economy car market. Do white people scurry about like somebody dropped water on an ant's nest and say, oh my God, the black people going to take over the market? No, they laugh and keep on moving. Do you know how embarrassing it is when black people come with an entrepreneurial idea and black people talk about how white people are going to beat them down? You know how pathetic that is? The fear is nauseating. It's time for people to get over it. It's been time for people to get over it. That shit has worn its welcome out centuries ago. Shout out to my man Al. What up with it? Why weren't black people building their own car manufacturer in that city in Tennessee? Why don't black people have a car company that builds cars? There's Japanese cars, there's Chinese cars, there's European cars. Where are the African or where are the black cars at? Before we talk about what the bad villain, supervillain, white people that everybody is so knock kneed and scared of are gonna do, let's build a car. Because then you have to call into question capability. Uganda just found damn near 30 metric tons of gold. All the raw materials that are necessary, they're in a lot of places where there's a lot of black people at. There is absolutely no excuse other than a lack of desire and complacency. This is where the lack of education and knowledge comes into play. Fashionable stupidity. People cause their own brain damage. A lot of this shit that we deal with, I don't feel I don't have any feelings about it. We should have been further. What industry are we represented in? You know, damn near anything in business is a whataboutism because we don't have any businesses. Everything is a whataboutism because we have that much of a lack of business. How are people not embarrassed by that? It's the 21st century. No technological representation. No cell phone company manufacturers. That's the reason why people keep asking for these breadcrumbs and shit. I'm saying fuck the breadcrumbs. Get your shit together. And once your shit together, tell these motherfuckers we're taking the whole loaf. You see that keyword right there, Carla? He was run. Run. Run to me, nigga. So this brings me back to that question yesterday. I forget we were having a discussion and somebody said, I think we were talking about that Styles P video, and they were saying, oh, white people fear us. This discussion right here does not sound like we're discussing a group of people that fears us. It sounds like the people within this discussion are the ones who have the fear. And I don't know why. No, you said it right, Carla. Because all the time, everybody is running. All the time. In a perpetual state of running. Not running any businesses. You know what I'm saying? Just running. From what? I don't know. Is everybody aware that the world is a sphere? So if you keep running from white supremacy, you're going to end up at the same place if you run far enough, and it's still going to be there because it's a circle. I agree, Ricky. We have lots of black people that refuse to work with each other for no good reason. I think the good reason is because as long as we continue to purposely sabotage ourselves, white supremacy not only serves as a social safety blanket for white people, it serves as a mediocrity cushion for us. And I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not. That's just pathetic. There should never be a mediocrity cushion. There should only be an upper limit for excellence. Do people even think about starting legacy businesses? There should be a plan to take over every area where we have a disparity. I don't think people even know every area where we have disparities because we're not interested in our own fates. How interested in your fate are you? Dr. Dre gave millions to University of Southern California. I think we need to push ourselves for our share of the money and then take it from the government. You know why the government is giving everybody else money? Because they don't want to give us any. And honestly, as an independent and solid group of people, we shouldn't be in a position where we're expecting money. We live in a government that is oppressive. Our government is war criminals. Our government has not only terrorized us, they've terrorized people all over the planet. Our government has the nerve to have a policy saying that they don't negotiate with terrorists when our government is a terrorist. The only place I want to push the government into is a volcano. That's the only place that the government needs to be pushed to. So now here it says the federal government now has a chance to live up to those commitments, she said. Let me ask you about that government. Isn't that the same government that published the Jim Crow laws? Ain't that the same government that facilitated slavery? Isn't that the same government that failed to prosecute that lady that got Emmett Till killed? That is the same government we're expecting to do what exactly? What is it that we expect that government to do? My question, James, is how are we a threat? What area are we threatening anybody in? We're not even a threat. We're not a threat anywhere where we're overly represented, let alone where we're a minority. Where are we a threat? How are we a threat? How do we threaten anybody's existence other than our own? How do we threaten anybody's existence other than our own? Do we have nuclear weapons? They're not threatened by us at all, in my opinion, Crypto. They feel threatened by genetic annihilation. And it's not us that's genetically annihilating them, it's the planet Earth. We're not genetically annihilating them. They're genetically annihilating other people, other animals, plants. We're not doing anything except for annihilating ourselves in every way possible. If we're annihilating ourselves in every way possible, how are we a threat to anybody? If we don't use power, then we don't have it. People use what they have. The people in Tennessee didn't even have the knowledge to vote in a comptroller that will work with their agenda. You know why? Because they didn't have an agenda. What political power? My question, Crypto Key, is when you've ruled and dominated and subjugated a group of people for 400 years, and then they didn't even fight and overthrow you, you got in a fight with another group of white people and they benefited from it. Do you really think a group of people like that is intimidated by the group of people that was subjugated by them for 400 years? Are you scared that your dog may uprise and take over your household? Has anybody ever had the fear that the goldfish may hop out of the tank and just take over the house and put you in the tank? Has anybody ever had a nightmare like that and woke up and said, "You know what? I got to secure my destiny from my pets"? Most people haven't had pets for 400 years. Most people haven't. If they thought that we were a threat, they're more scared of artificial intelligence than they are of us, man. Elon Musk putting out tweets all the time about the threats of artificial intelligence. Stephen Hawking's putting out his opinions about artificial intelligence. They are more afraid of their own creations than they are of us, which is fascinating because the way that our culture is currently, it's another one of their creations. Have you ever seen anybody put out a warning like the artificial intelligence warnings about us? Elon Musk said that the only way that humanity would remain relevant is if humanity merged with artificial intelligence. That's what Elon Musk said. I never heard anybody say the only way to maintain dominance on the planet is if we merge with black people. I don't think what we see is a threat. I think it's maintenance of control. So my thing is, the first thing that we need to start doing is chipping away at that control. If you're asking somebody for something, you're not chipping away at control. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Keith. And it's just my opinion. So, I hope nobody gets offended. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not trying to offend anybody. I want to actually come up with viable solutions. My question is, how come people don't study China and Russia? I mean, I get it. You know what I'm saying? We have a rich history. Komet is cool. But look at the position that China and Russia have the United States in today. So, Oil King, you ask, would the white middle class exist without government programs? Whether the answer to that question is yes or no, how does it get us reparations? How does it get us the amount of money that reparations is? What does it matter? Are we going to stop the government from operating? Or is the government going to continue to funnel out money to other groups? Or do we need to list a bunch of groups of people who gets government programs? People from Afghanistan, people from Ukraine, LGBTQ. We need to deal with controllable circumstances. Controllable circumstances is not asking what's going on here, what's going on there, what's going on with us, what are we doing versus what are we not doing. And I agree with Val. We need think tanks. Why don't we have contingency plans? Why will we play by any rules? Why not make our own rules? Who made the rules? If somebody made the rules that subjugated you, don't you think that they made the rules to keep you subjugated? Think of every law that's on the books. Name a law, and I'll tell you how that law was used in the formation of this country. Why do you think they're illegal now? The criminal justice system was the first antitrust system so that nobody else can establish an American empire. And in my opinion, we need to push ourselves. It's not our government to push. The government is an oppressive force that keeps us captive here, financially, physically. That's not my bag. Anybody that wants to deal with the government, more power to you. The only way I plan on dealing with the government is when they give me a call and say, we can't function anymore without this contract. All right, well, we'll have to talk about that contract in political terms then. There's things that you'll have to do before I consider working with you again. There's not going to be very many industries anymore, Cameron. Probably within the next 50 years, there's only going to be one industry. And that one industry is going to be artificial intelligence. So unless people plan on taking over artificial intelligence, but people have been sitting around not doing shit, there's already groups of people that have a jump on that. I did a presentation back in the day. People that watched my videos for a long time, they saw it. I had a bunch of suggestions about different type of industries before those industries became hot. And guess who didn't do shit about it? Motherfuckers was busy hashtagging and shit. You know what I find fascinating? There's a lot of the answers right in front of people's faces, but it shows the incapability of people to be able to think properly. What is the government coming up with the biggest amount of money for? Environmental initiatives. That's one of the reasons I created Blacklight Revelations 4. Before I created Blacklight Revelations 4, I was telling people about the energy industry, coming up with ways to maintain and process energy and transport energy. Lo and behold, China has perfected a fusion generator that's damn near capable of producing infinite energy. I said people should look into solar energy and wind energy and kinetic energy and transport energy, energy storage. People was busy watching Kevin Samuels and shit like that back then. Now that that is gone, something has to fill the void. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, TD Media, TD Hip Hop Media. Shouts out to TD Hip Hop Media. He had this series called Brother Please Hear Me Out. Next time he drops a video or goes live, you guys should ask him about what happened to it, when the next episode is. People show what they want to do. People show what they're interested in. There was this movie that was called The Day the Earth Stood Still, and there was this scientist in the movie, and he was talking to this alien that had came to the Earth, and he told the alien that people don't change until the precipice of change. I think that like that's obvious. There's evidence of that. So I guess what we need to figure out is, when are we on the precipice of change? I don't think you ever get an announcement about that. It just happens. One of the reasons why they're coming up with a universal basic income, I'm going to tell you guys something that's gonna pass. All of this liberal stuff that you guys see, it's all gonna pass. It's just a matter of time. Climate initiatives, Green New Deal, in the next 10 to 20 years, it's gonna pass. Universal basic income is gonna pass. You know why that stuff is gonna pass? Universal basic income has to pass within the next 50 years. And the reason why is because artificial intelligence is going to wipe out all simple and low level jobs, all of them, every single one of them. You won't be Uber driving anymore. You won't be door dashing anymore. You won't be a line cook at McDonald's anymore. Extinct. All of those businesses, all of those jobs, extinct. So most of the American people work those low level jobs. What are people going to do when they're gone? They have to live somehow. Universal basic income. Now, why am I talking about universal basic income? What is the time frame on securing reparations? Has anybody talked about that? Is there a target time frame? Reparations now. I get it. I get it. Now. I get it. What's the time frame? Because what happens when there's a reparations conversation going on and universal basic income happens? How does that change that conversation? It changes that conversation in the same way that the first artificial general intelligence changes the humanity conversation in ways unforeseeable at this time. Has anybody thought of a viable time frame of when we should have reparations by? What is a date? What is a target date? Most times when there's initiatives, there's an amount of years or there's an amount of months. There's a plan. Okay, by Q1 of 2022, I want to have this accomplished. By Q2, I want to have this accomplished. By Q3, I want to have this accomplished. By Q4, I want to have that accomplished. What is the time frame on when we have reparations accomplished? And if we don't have a time frame, why don't we have a time frame? I would say it's probably not a bad idea to at least put like a, I don't know, maybe like a 7-year time frame on it. There's no time frame. Crypto Key says, not that I haven't heard one. I don't think that it would be a bad idea to have one. It helps you meet deadlines. Well, then, if you feel that way, Cameron, we need to have a timeline for the presentation. What's the timeline for a presentation? How come that's not something that is just generally known and accepted? We have a time frame of 5 years to get a presentation, and then the next 5 years we're going to work on getting it done. We're going to present in 5, execute in 5. How come that's not what the plan is? You know what I'm saying? That's how a business works. Boom. Gotta agree with my man Muffet. Gotta agree with my man Muffet. You know, that's why you have due dates on your homework. You can't just be doing homework forever. Can't just be doing this forever. That's a problem. That's basic and a problem. Right? That's basic and a problem. So when you identify problems, guess what? That means that we're aware of a deficiency. And when you're aware of a deficiency, it now falls on you to fix that deficiency. So my question is, how do we fix that deficiency? I think in 2053 is when the community have zero wealth. So in my opinion, the latest that reparations should be accomplished by at the latest is 2053. You guys remember when we talked about the mission statement and the visions? Still no mission statement, still no vision statement. How do you know where you're going if you don't know your mission? How can you see your future if you don't have a vision? You know what I'm saying? Basic shit. Basic shit. Basic shit. Oh, that's all good, Val. No worries. You know, one of the things that they do nowadays when there's a plan for something or when there's a model for something is write a white paper. You guys ever heard of a white paper? If you guys ever heard of a white paper, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't heard of a white paper, give me a thumbs down. shouldn't be too hard to construct a reparations white paper, right? I mean, literally everybody has one. YouTube has one. Ethereum has one. Bitcoin has one. Where's the reparations white paper? Yeah, the Bitcoin white paper. Reparations white paper would be a written roadmap of the plan. Shouts out to Janesta Coleman. What up with it? Now, this is what I don't understand. You remember back in the day when people would go grocery shopping? Most people had a grocery list, right? And you would think that like a grocery list is something simple. Your grocery list is your event white paper. It's your plan. You go in the store and each item on the grocery list is your objective. And once you've gotten each of those objectives, your mission is complete. You leave and you pay. That is something that is elementary level basic. Yet it's non-existent in a serious situation. Business plan. If you go to the bank, they expect you to have a business plan. Now, we're not going to the bank. But I think there should still be a business plan. So where is it so I can read it? That's the question, guys. That's how you get stuff like this. That's how you get stuff like this. That's how you get CNN running around thinking that they're okay to just call whatever they want to reparations so they can have a story. That's the question, guys. Very important questions. Evanston, Illinois. All right. So I want you guys to think about that stuff that I asked. Because all of that stuff that I asked, as tyrannical and oppressive and unreasonable as I sound, you gotta have all that shit just to open up a franchise McDonald's. So we will revisit this stuff later. And I want you guys to let me know exactly what you come up with. And we'll finish that article and read some other articles. Okay? So I appreciate everybody sticking around. All right. Make sure that you stay in the stream so it can take you to the next scheduled one. Hit the bell icon over there. All right. And I will catch you all on the next live stream. All right. Peace.